We should develop partnership with communities, and that traditional rulers, stakeholders, and community sensitization and awareness is key if we want to impact lives, not just policies. Next. In maternal and child health, and the participants agreed that grantees can use clubs to educate members on simple health issues that government has. So if this government suddenly has something, conditional cash transfer, it has an initiative. Whatever the initiative government has, whatever we're programming around, we should make sure that citizens know that these things exist for them. So those are probably not indicators that Gates Foundation will hold you responsible, but it helps us for accountability and sustainability of what we're doing. What in essence is saying is that how can we make sure that way beyond what we have as programming, that we hold ourselves accountable as Nigerians to make sure that citizens know what the governments are doing for them in these sectors. Next. Another session that took place was the importance of last mile delivery in health. And the outcome there says we need to have flexible supply chain, that the private sector should be given more access to some public commodities such as family planning, that rural dwellers should be empowered to make the leaders accountable for effective functioning of systems. It appears that holding leaders accountable is a recurring thing. Each of the groups talk about it, and also there was the issue of task shifting and accountability, and I'm glad that there are professional organizations here, and the call then was to come to terms with reality. It doesn't make sense you go to University of Ibadan, a nurse is not allowed to put an IV fluid on a dying patient because it's not our job. It takes a consultant or a senior registrar to put an IV fluid. You go down to a village down the road, the nurse not only gives the IV fluid, but she's the doctor, and sometimes she does the surgery, or he does the surgery. What's the same country? What's in a nurse and a midwife putting an IV fluid to save a life? I mean, these are the professional idiosyncrasies. Because I'm a doctor, I can say things about doctors, and I'll be free, that we do that doesn't make sense. What is in putting an IV fluid? If no doctor puts an IV fluid, that would save doctors time to do other things. So those are the kinds of things, and I'm glad Japaigo is here, Pathfinder is here, who are pushing for tax shifting in other areas. You also asked that integrated delivery share some experiences on this, so we have an integrated delivery team that will be talking to us later. Next. A completely new topic came up, engaging with legislators. And it had a huge gathering. And in that meeting, people talked about civic education of individuals and community, media involvement, evidence-based research, but also talking to the executive and the legislators, building capacity of legislators who make decisions on our behalf. They decide what monies go for family planning, maternal health, child health, financial inclusion. If they don't understand the rationale, they will never do it. So that we see them not just as those useless, hopeless politicians, but rather that those people we actually voted to steer the wheel of our lives. And we might as well stop abusing them and work with them and actually build their capacity to take informed decisions. And tapping on the existing projects of governments, projects on governance across the country to strengthen executive legislative advocacy. So here what the team at that time was saying is that there's so many initiatives going on. Before we start any new initiative, perhaps we need to take a few minutes, reflect and see, are there existing channels that we can just strengthen and get things going? So that with each new government, we're not asking, championing new thing because it's just new, but actually keeping the focus on the smallholder farmers, keeping the focus on the women and children that we want to serve, so that it's, of course, this will call for giving away some of the powers of attribution, so that the whole essence is the getting the work done. Next slide. This is the same one, talking about civil society synergies and the need for us to work together. Next, please. In that, at the end of that meeting, we also as a foundation wanted to know, we wanted to set ourselves a baseline. How are we doing as a foundation? How are we doing in our relationship with you? Not just the Nigeria office, but the Gates Foundation. Where do you want to have some touch points with us within the foundation? We asked you to participate in some survey. We had some 18 people also fill in the survey, and we promised to share the results of the survey. And we're sharing the results of the survey mainly to know what your colleagues thought of the Gates Foundation at that time, but importantly to serve as, for us as a baseline. This is what you think of us. This is where we're doing great. This is not where we're doing great, and so that we can set targets for ourselves to improve. And so therefore what, Elmar, Tom, what do you want them to call you? Okay, good. I call him Tom. So I wanted, so what Tom is going to do is share with you what we found then, and then from next, so this is our first year after that. Next year we're going to do another one of these questionnaires, and then we'll be plotting graphs and see how we're doing as a foundation. There are questions around the Nigeria office specifically, there are questions around the foundation, there are questions about program officers, there are questions about our operations, there are questions about our grant-making processes. There are lots of questions about us that we need you to give us honest opinion so that we can improve. What we had was a baseline, so we just wanted to know where we are very early in the year when the office is hardly existing, trying to set up and so on and so forth. So thank you very much. I'll pass on the mic to Tom.
Thank you, Mairo. Good morning, everyone, and thanks for giving me this opportunity to talk. I'll say a few words before I start, also to give our colleagues a chance to set up the presentation. My name is Elmar. Close friends call me Tom. So hopefully by the end of this meeting, everyone here will be calling me Tom. A few words of introduction. I'm new to the foundation. I started in April, even less time, 3 months and a few days. But I've known Mairo, I think 12 or 13 years. And in fact, the last time I was here in Nigeria, which was in 2004, I traveled with her all over the north, which was a fabulous experience. At the time, we were both working for the Packard Foundation, the David and Lucille Packard Foundation. I had an interesting experience when I arrived yesterday at the airport, which reminded me of the warmth of Nigeria, and it was really a very pleasant experience. I was standing in a queue in immigration with lots of other people, and I could see the people around me had passports from Germany, from the US, from the UK. I don't know. So I was getting a little bit worried, as one does. And I saw all the people with the passports from UK and US and Germany and France go through immigration very fast. And then I arrived, and the gentleman started paging through my passport. And he said, "Step to the side," as I did. And he said, "Sir, please show me your return tickets." I said, "You know, I don't have them with me." "You don't have a printout?" "No, I can find the email, but it will take me a while." "Okay, no worries. Please, sir, show me your invitation letter." I have an invitation letter, that's how I got the visa. But I don't have it with me. I said, "Oh, please come with me." A little bit further away, I met his boss, and he said, "You know, really you should carry your invitation letter when you come to Nigeria. I said, yes, my mistake, I should have carried it. And then he said, okay, you have a South African passport, you're my cousin, I'll forgive you this time. Out of me wanted to say, you know, if I'm your cousin, I shouldn't need an invitation to come. I decided, let me keep quiet. Your mistake, I should have carried it. But the reason I'm telling the story is that he is, in his job, he was being a critical friend to me. He was being a friend, he was helping me, but he was also being critical. He was saying, well, there are certain things you could have done differently, could have done better. And this new role that I'm occupying at the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation is as Director of Assurance and Risk Management. And the assurance piece really is to be a critical friend of the foundation. How do we know, given our CEO's emphasis on stewardship and impact, how do we know that stewardship is functioning as it should? That the money that we all are privileged to work with and use for great goals is used in the best way possible? How do we know that we're on track to achieve impact? Do we know that there are not things we could be doing more efficiently, better, more collaboratively, breaking out of the silos? My team, which is very small, is just starting to explore some of those things, and one of the reasons I came here, and I want to thank Mairo for allowing me to join, is to be able to think through how best to do it. And I'm here to learn from you. So having said all of that, after I asked Mairo whether I would be allowed to attend so that I can use this as part of my orientation to the foundation, she said, yes, of course, but I'm going to ask you to present a presentation. So that's why I'm here. I'm not here a year ago, obviously. So if you have any deep questions about this presentation, I'm going to defer to Mairo. I'll try to answer. But essentially what this is the survey that was undertaken last year at this time, more or less, when the last grantee meeting happened. And as you can see, there were 18 responses, so a relatively small sample set. I don't know how many people were here last year, but it's still indicative, I think, of how people thought. And I will just quickly go through each question, and then perhaps we can have a Q&A at the end of it. And here's what was asked. How well does the Gates Foundation understand your organization's strategies and goals? And I'm sorry that it's a little small, but essentially the overall response was relatively positive. The converse. How well has the Gates Foundation communicated what it wants to do, its goal and strategies to you? Quite positive. Most people felt this was well explained. How consistent is this information? And there you can see it slips a little bit towards the bottom end of the scale. How comfortable do you feel approaching the foundation when you have issues? Largely positive. Our working relationship with the foundation strengthens our organization's ability to achieve results. Very positive feeling around that. How clearly do we, Gates Foundation staff, I'm too fast, sorry. I will be less fast. How clearly does the Gates Foundation staff explain how we are involved once the grant has been awarded? Again, 10 of the 18 felt very positive about this. Okay, to move on. Louder. How clearly did staff explain decision-making around the grant? Again, a very positive result. Good explanation about the process. Do you agree or disagree that the foundation and its staff provide accessible and relevant information around procedure, structure, and process regarding the grant and your work. Reasonably positive, 10 out of 18 in the top 2 categories. Here's an interesting one. In the last 6 months, has there been a change in your primary contact at the foundation? Almost 50%, well, 44% of respondents have had a change in their primary contact. I see some nodding heads. I wonder whether that feeling continues. More nodding. Is your current primary contact for your work with the Gates Foundation in Nigeria or in Seattle or elsewhere? 60%, over 60% have their primary contact not in Abuja, but in Seattle, perhaps London, DC. How do you feel about the quality of coordination between Gates Foundation staff in Nigeria and staff in Seattle? Here it shifts a little bit towards the center. Only 6 respondents, 1/3 in the favorable category and a little bit of slippage downwards. How much does the presence of the Nigeria office enhance your understanding of the Gates Foundation? And I think the numbers speak for themselves. So that question, I don't know how to go back to this. Oops. Can we go back to, please? Yeah. So that was how much does it enhance your understanding of the foundation. This one is how much does the presence of the Nigeria office enhance your relationship with the Gates Foundation, with a similar result. To what extent do you feel that the work and mission of your organization are aligned with the work and mission of the Gates Foundation? Very positive. And here's something that's more qualitative, some textual feedback that I won't read out. But the question was, what is one important change that the Gates Foundation could make that would positively affect your organization's work with us? Is that legible at the back, or is it too small? Small. All right, so the points that are made are, we have a technological solution. It's not the solution, I'll read it. Strengthening country-level capacity to coordinate and support foundation objectives in Nigeria. Training towards capacity building, specifically in advocacy. Thinking about the opportunity for scale-up. Thinking about the possibility of pre-qualifying certain organizations who might want to submit proposals, so that they did not, so that the foundation wouldn't have to receive a large amount of unsolicited proposals. Invest in transport asset management, particularly for the last mile delivery work. Questions around accountability and empowering citizens to ask the right questions and to create platforms for having the information they need to influence the development of policies and plans. Integrated approaches, a theme that came up again today. Co-branded convenings that happen more frequently on tough issues. Diversified funding to other health issues that are not currently covered by Gates Foundation grants. And engaging state government for accountability and sustainability across the sectors. Continues collaborative advocacy on MNCH should increase. Ditto strategic advocacy and engagement with government to increase existing commitments in this area. Also on vaccine delivery. Strengthening the breeding program of my organization, I don't know which one that is, for variety improvement, particularly where it affects orange flesh, sweet potato. Better communication, further communication, something that Booster is working on. Coordination mechanism on grants allocated by the headquarters in country. I'm thinking about emergency funding where necessary. Longer presence of Gates Foundation staff in Nigeria. And increased local communication between the Nigeria office and the program. And I think much of Mairo, what Mairo just presented shows that a number of these issues have been addressed successfully over the last year. And then a number of other areas which tend to be very positive, wonderful working experience, insightful, consistent meetings, inspiring, educated. And this was the analysis done by my colleagues a year ago after this survey was administered. And it came up with a number of recommendations, most strongly focusing on what they call the 3 C's. The need for better communication, better coordination between Seattle and Abuja, and consistent communication in interactions between the foundation and grantees in this country. And a plan to monitor the frequency of change in primary contact for Nigerian grantees. I admit that I don't know whether that has been successful or not. Making sure that there is mission alignment between the foundation and grantees to accelerate and sustain impact. Think about having more personnel representing PSDs in Abuja. That Mairo is hiring. And using the open space meeting approach. So I will stop there, and I hope this was reasonably clear. Mairo said a little bit about how she intends to take this further, because in some ways this is a baseline of where we were a year ago. I think it would, from my perspective in the assurance space, it would be very, very valuable for us at the Foundation to have regular updates on this, to understand both feelings and experiences of grantees in Nigeria with respect to the Foundation and where we can all improve. I'll leave it at that. Happy to take any questions.